Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed and we are in the Socrates and Jesus, a banger book that bangs so much that even your mama thinks that the book bangs much. This book is amazing. Socrates and Jesus, a dialogue in heaven, and you can even find a link to the PDF below. And you can buy yourself a copy. Why not? Last time we did a review of, hey, welcome Saint. We did a review of what we covered, and we covered a bunch of different things. There's a lot in last time, but fundamentally, the state of being of somebody functioning through the cognitive level of belief is one of conflict within, with their spirit, in that the spirit wants to be free, but will accept the limits that are imposed on believers. In order to be a member of a group, they have to accept certain limits that makes them the same. In conflict with people who want to understand and develop, because belief is by definition in opposition to understanding, mind and self, the three higher stages of evolution we're moving into. And other than even those within their same group. You look across at the other Mormons and you think, well, some of these guys are pretty wacky. I don't think the same things they think. And also, everyone is aware. Everyone is aware at some level that they are accepting some lies, some limits that they don't want. But part of the game is they do not talk about it to each other. You mustn't say the things you're not allowed to say about our belief system. Okay? And that conflict that's inherent to believers, all believers, is expressed in countless wars, even among different variations of the same sect. Even Christians, there are various kinds of Christianity who have been killing each other for through endless wars for many years. But one thing that binds them together is all believers will turn against people who do not subscribe to belief, but also what makes them the same is an idea of sacrifice. There is an idea of sacrifice within religious belief that you have to sacrifice what is most meaningful, what is most precious, and what you love in order to be a member of a group that is against all of the fundamental principles of what it means to be a good person: understanding, mind, self, providence, in a group that will eventually bring end to all life on this planet. So the stakes are pretty huge. So in comparison, understanding, or the Hellenic mind, sacrifices something else, not what we love the most and what is most important. We sacrifice what is harmful, is inconsistent with our highest goals, and blocks our highest goals. So we sacrifice the bad. So two fundamentally different ideas of sacrifice that underpin the fundamental two stages of cognition. Belief, where all humans start at some level, whether you like it or not. You grew up in a world where the Abrahamic religions are in force, in power, and everyone individually develops a false belief about themselves in childhood to be a member of not a religious group, but a family group. And as religious people identify their self with the religious belief, I am a Christian, I am a Jew, so too do you develop a mask about an image of yourself that you identify with, and your life becomes a playing out of the implications of that false self-image that causes the blocks to your problems. And unless you wake up to the dialectic, you spend your life becoming more and more identified with that image and mask. That's false. Leading to the quote by Socrates, an unexamined life is not worth living. Because if we are here specifically to address a false belief about ourselves that we carry with us as souls, then the examined life is what we're here for. And that's the dialectic, the skill of examining and discovering and removing our false image that cause our problems, our false beliefs. That's the dialectic. If we don't do it, well, it's not worth living, because you'll end up more inculcated, more identified with, more entrenched in that very false belief about yourself that you were here to address in the first place. By the way, that's debate. If you've ever seen people debating things, they come in with the false beliefs or opinions that they're wanting to defend, they defend it, and they walk away more entrenched in those dumb beliefs that they started with. Why beliefs are the opposite, debate is the opposite of the dialectic. So sacrifice, a sick idea of sacrifice underpins the sickness of belief-based thinking. Isn't that neat? Again, we've gone on a journey to see the differences in different beliefs and things and how they function in the world, and come back to a single synthesis or single idea that encapsulates all the manyness or difference that we've been reflecting on. All of these differences, conflict, suffering, other to other. Well, one way you can bring it all together is this sick idea of sacrifice that can make all religions the same. Okay? Another idea that's different to the Hellenic mind is sin and punishment. The oppressive hand of punishment and sin isn't present in understanders. So, of course, understanding allows you to solve problems caused by belief and develop further from understanding into knowledge and to reach the self. Or another way of saying that, we can move anagogically using the gift from Prometheus, the dialectic, or Hermes, to reach our final goal, Zeus. So that's a way of simplifying this understanding that we've been developing into three different characters: Prometheus, Hermes, and Zeus. Makes it simple, makes it easy to remember, makes it easier to communicate, and you can even write stories about how Zeus and Hermes and Prometheus all walk into a bar one day. That's mythology. Why is mythology important? Well, mythology is the way we can communicate everything we've been learning here and create the conditions for a new culture to emerge in humanity, a culture unified by understanding, philodainoia, the love of understanding, but a new culture of mind and reason. So, we have been learning that this gift from the gods that Prometheus has given to mankind to save mankind, along with fire and the arts, is the gift of, so we have Prometheus gives mankind the dialectic. Hooray. This allows us to overcome fate and reach our highest purpose or destiny. Free from the chains of our suffering and problems to reach our highest functioning and goal. To know and show the self. Oh, and my lights went off. The dialectic. The dialectic is expressed in the way of being, that, or the study of what we call Philodianoia, the love of understanding, or love and logos. Now, we now have a way of talking about this principle that we've been working with, Philodianoia, love of understanding, or to say it another way, with alliteration, love and logos, because the dialectic is the structure of the logos. The logos is what we follow through time in understanding. We can express it in a fun way. We can say Aphrodite and Apollo. See? The fun of mythology. And by the way, dialectic, we can say Hermes. So this is our anagogic triad, or three principles that exist in reality that together, Aphrodite, together with Apollo, build together to a hyparxis, or a fullest flowering. That's the pyramid, Hermes. With the shoes, with the wings, that allow us to fly quickly to the Zeus. And those are the three of the anagogic triad. There are four triads: the anagogic, or upward moving, the vivific, or the inspiring, or the power triad, the protective, or preserving, keeps everything together, and the existing, or ruling. Zeus, our goal, the source of everything, the self, that uses divine wisdom to care or benefit all living and non-living things, or providence. So a self beyond knowing and understanding. It uses the two together providentially. So here we have providence and divine, the providential use of divine wisdom, but this idea of self and providence transcending even wisdom. So Zeus, Poseidon, the principle of movement, motion, development, flow, and Hephaestus, the blacksmith god. This is the highest triad, the blacksmith god that creates bodies and inspires bodies to know the self. Blacksmith yourself into your highest self. So 12 gods to keep in mind. And here we have the three: the dialectic, or the study of Philodianoia. So you've heard of philosophy. Here's something better: Philodianoia. Because philosophy is wisdom. Philos, Sophia, love of wisdom. But understanding can go beyond wisdom. We've seen that the dialectic is expressed in, or this dialectic in the study of Philodianoia has four elements. Applied to the true, that's philosophy. Applied to what's false, the dialectic, gift from Hermes that we can, by the way, we're using all of the principles. You can see the other gods as other principles utilized in dysfunctioning. Applied to removing what's false is philosophical midwifery, getting rid of your unsuspected beliefs that cause your problems. Applied to both, you know what guides you in both? Your dreams. Dream analysis. And sharing it. Mythology. Sharing it with others. Now, what we read last time was that if we get involved with mythology, we are creating the conditions for the birth of the new age of the Hellenic mind. The very thing absolutely necessary to turn around problems here, to remove what's false within our own lives and souls, but within our as above, so below, within our culture. There are a lot of good people out there who care about humanity, who care about all living and non-living things. Therefore, we need to do our best to share a mythology, to say, hey, that's fantastic that you care about things. That care, if it's joined with divine wisdom, can become providence. An art that you can utilize that care and your own intelligence to solve problems. It's fantastic that there are people who care, and it's fantastic that there are people out there who spend their life energy trying to understand what's going on and share understanding. That's fantastic. We need these people. The next step is, hey, what makes you different? Why is it that people do harm in the world, fascists, etc., propagandists, are all bound by beliefs? And they're even in groups or clans that share that belief, Nazi beliefs, MAGA beliefs, all that kind of stuff. And why is it that the good people who actually awaken empathy or care for others love understanding? Why is it empathy is connected with understanding? That's a question we can ask these people. Why is it that your haters are all believers? And have you ever noticed that these believers who hate on you can't use their own thinking? They can't come up with their own insults. They just imitate. They repeat talking points, whether it be Fox News reporters repeating the same script because they can't think for themselves, or sycophants that repeat the same catchphrase, liberal tears, all that sort of stuff. Why is empathy or the higher functioning of the soul connected with understanding? Have you seen that that's a pattern? In other words, can you see the many expressions of either haters or good people, and see haters that are the ones that do harm are bound by belief-based cognition, and the good people are those who are champions of understanding? Always. Have you noticed? If that's the case, then the next step would be, wouldn't the fullest flowering or the highest participation in what you've seen as good, wouldn't that be understanding? That's ousia. Everything that we do, as we do it, we reflect on the process itself, because that is a higher level of reflection. Understanding is a kind of ousia. We are turning about upon the mind and the principles that allow us to understand what's going on. Believers just say, that person looks different than me or my family. I hate them. I want them to suffer and die. It's just that simple. The fascists and the racists and the sexists and all of the terrible people out there doing terrible things, they're not super geniuses. They're not Bond villains. There's not some 4D chess game going on in their psyche. It's the opposite. They are, what we read in the text last time, barbarians, savages. They are blocked from understanding by virtue of participation in belief. And it's the belief that binds you to the images that cause the belief, and those beliefs come from your clan, your upbringing. I believe in Jeebus. I believe in Muhammad. I believe in Xenu. I believe in whatever Anglicans believe in, etc. There are thousands of different religions, but also I believe in my family. That's even more fundamental, because even non-religious people have their own self-image from self-beliefs, from beliefs about self and reality from the clan. So, Imitation. That's it. Their idea of justice is caveman, barbaric, hurting people who seem different than my family clan or challenge the beliefs of my family clan, and giving the monies and the good jobs to the people who are similar to me, other Mormons, etc. And of course, if you want to see the science of that, there is Keegan Teagan. Follow him on Instagram. He's this guy.
This guy had to admit that the people in his life who helped convince him to be a conservative in the first place, parents, clergy, other authority figures, were wrong. Not only was wrong, but lied to him, and that he fell for it. All of that takes so much courage and character.
So Keegan Teagan, you can follow him on Instagram. He will show you the science behind everything that we learn here. So he's doing really great work. He shows all of this is through empirical studies, the science of the psychology of politics. Keegan Teagan, great guy, doing good work. So they're not super geniuses. They're just bound by image thinking. That's why one of the videos he has is showing a heat map of how right-wingers or pathologos-based people only care for people in their immediate circle, while people who engage more in understanding have an empathy that reaches to people outside of their family clan. The racists and sexists and things like that are, well, he would say right-wingers, but we would recognize there is no real right-wing party. It's just the pathologos as a group doing politics. They're not doing politics. They're pretending. Because they can't understand and actually do it, they can only imitate, because belief is imitation. They imitate the cruelty they suffered. That's it. Imitation from belief. That's it. Two ideas: imitation, belief. You can't imitate good things. You can't imitate what a surgeon does. That requires understanding and knowledge and experience. But you can imitate somebody hurting a fake surgeon. That's why all the people on Trump's payroll are all doing terrible, terrible harm while cosplaying as experts in this or that. RFK cosplaying as an expert on medicine while just doing incredible harm. Of course, because believers can only do harm because they can only imitate. If they were to do good, they would require understanding. And so these people out there who are recognizing that, by the way, understanding is ousia, reflecting on the principles that exist in the mind. So while belief plays favorites, I hurt this group and be good to that group, I genocide this group and give monies to that group, understanding is universal. Why? Because it's understanding principles in the mind. Principles. Actually, I can probably write it a bit more neater on the board. It's understanding is ousia, which is a turning about. On principles in or of the mind. Not a mind, not an individual mind, but the mind. Whereas it's in opposition to belief, which is a stagnant ousia, a stagnant or sick, or a sick ousia. But again, there is a little bit, second chat of the day is spam. So thank you, Saint Just there, for making the first message of today not a capitalist spam bot, trying to scam and lie to make money for whoever spends their life energy using words in that way. A stagnant, sick Usia, because it's a reflection on an image that does not change. No change. No change or no growth. And this is also the principle behind religion. We read that in the book last time. In the book, we saw that there is no it's a closed system. It springs fully formed from a primary figure. Jesus knows everything. Daddy knows everything. Trump knows everything. Muhammad knows everything. God knows everything. And it's all fully formed. Well, not God, because it's a personal figure. It's a person. But there's no development can occur. In these closed systems, no development can occur. Otherwise, they will have to break away and form a subgroup. And then fight wars with the other group. So there's no future. It can't evolve. It can't grow. It's dead. Which is interesting because it's dead in its nature, but also it seeks to make other human beings dead. Do unto others as what was done unto me. So lots of wars. All sorts. Justified by religion. And will eventually end all life on the planet. Because Jesus will come back. So there's no development or a shadow of Usia, a stagnant, sick Usia. But there is some Usia there, even though it's a shallow, stagnant pool of slop. There is some Usia there. And if Usia is necessary for development, that's why philosophical midwifery is the essential greatest art, because that's the art that utilizes that stagnant Usia that's normally maintains people's problems, people's self-image and false beliefs that cause their problems. You can make use of that shallow pool of chi, or mythologize it how you wish. Juriki or mana. Think of an anime you like, and what's their magic power? Is it ki? Is it chi? Is it power level? Whatever it is, there are some characters that have a small amount. You can utilize it in this art to free yourself from the sick Usia and move into the true pool of chi, Usia. That's understanding. Therefore, if every human being gets this, it's necessary that every human being learns and goes through philosophical midwifery for the sake of their own development. And if belief is the cause of problems, the conflict suffered by belief, false images, stagnant Usia, is the cause of human problems or injustice in our society, then it's not only a moral imperative for oneself, it's an ethical imperative for our species. It's your civic duty to go through philosophical midwifery because of this principle of Usia. So, when we do participate in understanding, we recognize we also reflect on the process itself. So as we go through dream analysis, we reflect on the fact that, hang on a second, by doing dream analysis, which is the dialectic applied to dreams, which helps us in both finding our journey towards truth and removing our false beliefs and blocks. We ask the question to the dreamer, hey, what do you make of dreams themselves? What do you make of the fact that dreams function in that way? reflecting on the thing itself. That's a higher level of ousia. So, while people who are engaged in understanding, the best of us, the people we really love and need in the world, when they realize that understanding is a mark of empathy and belief is what binds people to ignorance and harm, or the cause of problems, we'll ask them, hey, by the way, this thing that allows you to be better, that you are sharing in a little bit, don't you want to get into it fully? Just as we said, the shallow ousia can be used in midwifery to awaken a higher pool of ousia. This understanding. What if you, ousia, turned about upon understanding and understood understanding? Would that allow you to develop your understanding and reach a greater amount of empathy? Or awaken a greater amount of empathy? And when you have empathy and understanding, would you have a greater skill to be able to utilize that empathy to care for those who you care about? In other words, caring for animals is step one, but developing an understanding of veterinary science is needed to actually benefit the animals. What's an understanding of understanding? Philodianoia. We love it. It's inspiring. When we see that we can understand understanding, and when we do, we awaken higher states of being ourselves, we level up. The seeing of these parts coming together in a whole, to see that it affects us personally, that's the inspiration of Aphrodite. That's why it's love and logos, Aphrodite and Apollo. But what's the art of using understanding? That's the dialectic. So these good people who are caring about others, caring about humanity, caring about the good, and trying to understand what's happening in the world, understand that the people bound by belief, the fascists and the racists and the grifters and the billionaires and the capitalists are all bound by belief, and they are doing harm. The people trying to understand, hey, let's not just give up. Let's, help people. These Trump-appointed people in charge of different departments. RFK in charge of the health department. He's killing children by lying about vaccines because he can't understand vaccines because he's just built functioning through beliefs and images. He wants to appear a Noah. All these science deniers in the right wing. Let's understand that they are dumb. Let's make fun of them because we want to understand problems. The next step is to say, hey, those people, those best people who we need and we very, very much appreciate, in order to solve the problems that you have been doing great work in highlighting, to solve the problems, to make change, we need the gift from Prometheus to mankind that can save mankind. That's the dialectic, which is an understanding of understanding, to make understanding an art, the art of Philodianoia. Expressed in these 4 areas. Oh, and by the way, what's fantastic about the dialectic, not only is it the principle of understanding, it's the principle of all principles. It's the paradigm of everything that's intelligible. Because intelligible means the logos. Grasping the inherent intelligibility of reality, that's the logos. Experienced through time is understanding. Experienced all at once out of time, different color, purple. experience all at once, out of time, or eternally, that's knowledge. So that's the Logos out of time, or the Logos in time. Which is the inherent, which means that the brilliant light experience of pure ousia, mind turning around to know itself, that's pure ousia. The inherent intelligibility of that brilliant light experience is the Logos. Therefore, we can have a metaphysical map. So therefore, we can say knowledge, or the out of time pure ousia experience of the Logos, creates its shadow or reflection into understanding. So the reflection of the all at once ousia, intelligibility of reality, is understanding, but also the distorted reflection of understanding is belief and image thinking. So here we have a diminishment. But then we can go one step above and say, hang on a second. Where does the Logos that can only be described in negatives, that's therefore not in time, like understanding, or out of time, or eternal? This is, as we saw last time, while this experience of knowledge is the highest use of positives, it's a one, but it's not a one, it's a oneness, because it's a oneness of qualities, the highest type of one that still has parts, and those parts and its nature can be described in the highest use of positive language, highest positives. This is somehow described in negatives. So how can the absolute highest experience somehow how can there be a one how can there be the highest, a kind of one, how can that be described in negative? Wouldn't it make sense that the top of the list be the highest positives? How does that come from that? Do all of these amazing qualities just magic away when you go up? How can this lead to that? That's the ultimate puzzle. What does our mind do? It uses the Logos with some inspiration. We care about solving our problems. We care about ourselves. We care about removing our suffering and problems. We care about not being our highest happiness, our true selves. We care about the messages being sent to us along the way. And we care about playing the game with others. So there's our Aphrodite, there's our inspiration. So we have a care, we are interested in solving certain kinds of puzzles. And what does our mind do? Solve puzzles. That's what our mind is, the puzzle solving thing. Puzzle solving activity. That's why when we read, we look for puzzles. That's why believers are stuck. They don't look for puzzles. They look for opportunities to express their dumbass opinions as if they know everything already. Let me tell you about what God is. Let me tell you about Jesus. Let me tell you, says RFK, about vaccines being bad. They're not interested in learning. That's the stagnant nature of Usia. There's no change. There's no learning. That's the A is to B. Just as this guy looked, parents act to children, children grow up to look for opportunities to do the same thing to others. You want to understand psychopaths? Easy. Find this analogy. Whatever was involved in their crime or injustice, what is that an imitation of that they suffered themselves? It's just that easy. People who are sick in problems aren't rocket scientists. They're not super geniuses. In other words, it doesn't take long to poke holes in religion. I mean, that's Ricky Gervais's whole stand-up career. He wasn't a stand-up comedian. He made The Office. Then he realized, oh, well, I can just point to the absurdities in religion and compare it to just natural science and make jokes. Yeah, that's his whole career. And that's another thing we saw last time. People who are, while people who love understanding already can see that absurdity. Oh, there was an ark where two of every animal were collected onto a big ship because God says so, and it's true because the Bible says so. Well, first of all, that's fucking stupid. Have you seen the Bible? It's full of all different crazy shit. Every next thing contradicts the last thing. Have you seen the character of God in the Bible? He's like the worst supervillain of all time. Justifying killing of children and other people and animals, and justifying all sorts of the worst kinds of things are justified in the Bible. Have you noticed that Paul says the opposite of what Jesus says, but the church is based on Paul? Have you noticed that there's no Jesus magicking from the dead in the Bible? That was added by the church. Have you noticed that the church has been abusing people for hundreds and hundreds of years? So why believe them? Why believe something from these terrible, terrible people? Because of a terrible, terrible story that just simple evidence would say, well, it can't be proven in principle. That's absurd. By definition, it's called an absurd belief. To believe something that can't in principle be shown by evidence and reason. Right? But let's ignore that. Okay, let's listen to the story. 2 of every animal? Where did he find all these animals? Have you seen how many variations of animals there are? Like 1 million different bug variations. Was there a whole section for bugs? How did he make sure 3 millipedes didn't get on and only 2? By the way, for the time that they were on the boat, what do they eat? Don't animals eat each other? So it's very easy to see it's nonsense. But that's the mark. The crazier the story, the more you have to be in conflict with yourself. It messes with your psyche. It's why it's child abuse. Well, we can see that with reason. With your reason, you can always start off with a clean slate, says Jesus to Socrates. While those like him, who grew up in religion, Jesus did, Jewish, they have to assume the traditions of their fathers. Pretend that their father was wise. Think about how many fathers there are. Think about how many children think that their parents are wise. All of them. How fucking stupid is that? This is what has always messed with my mind. My dad's right. His religion's right. Have you seen your next door neighbor? You don't even have to look far. Look over your back fence. There's a dad. Do you think he knows everything about the nature of reality and God? Of course you don't. He's got kids. Do you think his kids believe the opposite, that his dad knows everything? They fucking do. See how crazy it is? And why the heck do you think your parents know anything? Anyway, that has always been a splinter in my mind. How absurd it is. But also how absurd our system is, that you're trapped in a box with some people. It's like Stockholm Syndrome. You're trapped in a box with these people and they can do anything. It's insane. Very, very crazy world. No, lack of logos. Why do we subscribe to this? Oh, because when you've got a trapped audience, you can cosplay the image of being a Noah. You can be Trump of your house. So that's a difficulty. People who grew up with beliefs have to presume that their traditions are right, and they have to find a way of changing the literal meaning. Everything in the Bible is true, even Adam and Eve and Noah and stuff, and try and translate it into a spiritual level of meaning, or turn it into a mythology. Whereas with reason, you can just start with the dialectic. You can start with the good stuff. So the application of the dialectic is the logos through time. That's understanding. You can experience it all at once in knowledge, which is described upon reflection with understanding in the highest positives, but then we awaken the puzzle of how the heck can there be a one without those qualities that you've experienced in the highest possible way? How can it be described in negatives if you've experienced the highest possible experience? How can there be something above it? And how can there be something above it that's described in negatives as well? That's a big puzzle. What if it's on a different level? Incommensurate. What if this logos, what if the logos stands above in order for it to create a reflection into time? So we have a reflection. A reflection of something into eternity or out of time. That's reflected into time for understanding. So how does the one how is the Logos present somehow in the One in a way that's not eternal, out of time, or in time? What kind of knowing is that? How could the Logos be more subsumed in a higher and transcendent way? Because the cause of something has to contain the effect in a higher, has to have the principles or the power of the effect in a more pure and transcendent way prior to the cause, prior to the effect. So in the imitation of the Logos, the distorted imitation is belief and image thinking. Now we do have another movement where we leave belief into mass of difference. Nothing is anything. Only parts exist. There is no whole. So those are the 5 stages of cognition and evolution on the table in the book so far. And the great puzzle that we can apply our minds to, what minds want to do. Find something we're inspired by, Aphrodite, and apply the Logos, Apollo, to it to solve the puzzle. What do the two come together to? Hermes. How can we use the dialectic itself to solve the puzzle of there being a one that's even higher than the highest kind of experienced one? How the fuck can that happen? Or how can there be a Logos that's more transcendent than bliss and beauty and justice in knowledge? That's itself the cause of this understanding we're participating in right now, that solves all human problems by understanding belief as the cause of human problems. And the conditions for believers to take over the world are modern Democrats, mass of difference. Everything is just opinion. There is no principles. There can't be a God or anything like that, or a Logos. Just all personal opinions. Who's to say what's right and wrong? Everyone just have a vote. And if you vote in the fascists, then who cares? Just like when you're about to do surgery, you go into the waiting room and you say, let's take a vote. Do you guys vote for the surgeon who has understanding and knowledge of the healthy body and the art of medicine? Or do you want to vote for the sadist doctor who doesn't have any understanding or knowledge and just believes he's a doctor and wants to harm patients? Oh, that sadist doctor has a lot of money and he's convinced you to vote for him? And he's imitating your parents and your preachers, pretending he's holding up a Bible to say, I speak for Jesus? And the people on the payroll, the preachers and the television people on the payroll all pretend that he is just like Jesus? Oh, you want to vote for the sadist surgeon to do medicine? That's a good way of conducting a doctor's office, isn't it? That's the modern Democrats. Pelosi and Kamala Harris and all of those people are themselves personifications or mythologizing this cognitive function. Within the collective dream, Pelosi and Schumer and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are all personifications of this principle. They won't be around forever. But the principle that they're representing in their life can be seen as a myth within the collective dream of our culture, representing this metaphysical principle. And the difference between barbarians and Hellenes, or real human beings, is mythology. can we recognize that the people that play out in our everyday life, the characters in the book we read, the characters in our dreams, and the characters in the stories that we tell or the arts we engage in are all personifications, metaphors that personify these metaphysical principles that will be true for always and forever, even when Pelosi or Schumer kick the bucket. That's the difference. If you approach all of those things mythologically, you are awakening understanding and the Hellenic mind. Because that's how understanding works. Understanding works through the structure of the dialectic, in participating in the elements of the logos in time, but functions through analogy. That's why we can have hierarchical systems. Analogy has lesser to greater, with some samenesses and some differences. There are some samenesses and differences between a massive difference, or number 5, and believers. There is sameness and difference between understanding and belief. That allows us to see that it's a distorted reflection. Isn't their beliefs kind of different too, if I weren't mistaken? Which ones? Whose belief? Pelosi's and Schumer's. Sure, that's a massive difference. There's no one the same. There's no sameness. So the logos, the elements of the logos, whole and part, same and different, out of time and in time. There's 12 of them that we've been building up. While believers are in conflict, they are parts in conflict with the whole. What Marx's state of massive difference, or the modern Democrats, mythologized by Pelosi and Schumer, is disconnection. No whole. Only parts. Pelosi has her dumb opinions. Schumer has his. They never stand up to fascists. They never have principles. They never say, oh, well, yeah, let's just vote in fascists. Let's compromise with fascists. So you're right, yeah. Even there is no sameness. So all of their beliefs and opinions are different when you're a massive difference. But that's people who've left beliefs, they've left MAGA, they've left fascism, or they've left Christianity or whatever, but they haven't addressed the effects of being in that culture and having that upbringing. That's why philosophical midwifery is absolutely necessary. As a moral imperative for yourself, for your own development, upward and not downward. But also ethically, because if you ever have any effect in the world, you better make sure you're not a believer and you're not a massive difference. You're not a right-winger or a Democrat, a Republican or a Democrat. You better be better. Or as citizens, even understanding that these principles, so that we recognize not every human being can run as fast as Usain Bolt. It's not a bad thing. We all have different qualities and different abilities and different arts we're drawn to. Not all racehorses run at the same speed, but we do have an imperative to understand this principle so that we can demand of our leaders that they are the best surgeons, the best doctors, the people with the best capacity to address false beliefs and massive difference, to develop understanding, the principles of the art. Now, medicine, the principles are to do with the body, but these are the principles themselves that apply to all arts, because we're talking about souls or psyches, minds. That's the logos. Understand it through time. That's the principles. And by the way, that's the dialectic. That opens you up to experience it eternally. That's the paradigm. That's the model of the healthy body. Or, as that's an analogy, by the way, it's the model of the mind. But we can use analogies to understand it. That's how we think. So today we're understanding. We've got the elements of the logos that we broke down. we've got the structure of the dialectic, and we've got the use of analogies, and we put them all together to create mythology. Which means if this is a understandable, universally true structure of psychic functioning that we move through, then in principle it should follow the dialectic and the logos and analogy. Well, we can use the logos, the elements of the logos, to understand each. What are the building blocks of understanding? Whole and part. Everything that you've ever seen is a whole and a part. Everything you've ever experienced is a whole of parts. Everything you've seen is same and different. Same as something, different as well, but it being a different thing. Like and unlike, limit and unlimited. So we can use, there's a list of 6 of them. Should I keep going? I'll give you something to do. Let's just use limit and unlimited. Unlimited and limit. So we can use the logos to understand. Massive difference is disconnected between the two. There is no whole, there is no freedom or unlimited. Believers are in conflict. They accept limits of their belief, and they are in conflict with the freedom of their own soul, with other people who are unlimited if they do love understanding. They're in conflict. That's the cause of human wars and things, believers. The conditions is the massive difference. Understanders, we're using the same elements of the logos. State of being, of knowing the whole, or functioning providentially. There's our love and logos. There's our good people in the world who care about others, but also have the understanding. That's the dialectic. To yourself be the same, but relate to everyone different through the dialectic. To be free yourself, but help people who are blocked in their beliefs through the dialectic. See, same terms. Knowledge is both all at once in the highest positives, and then above that, question mark. It seems that if we are defining whole and part, same and different in terms of pairs, we can reject both. If a whole is that which has all its parts, but a part is a manyness, a pure one can't be a manyness, so it can't be a whole or a part. We can go through that same dialectical reasoning to understand the self that we're after, the know thyself. What are you? What are you? You have mind solving puzzles if you're watching this, but what's doing it, or what's watching it, or what caused it? What are you? We can address that question by going through all of these self-logos pairs, understanding them, how they are defined and experienced in all possible ways, and negating both. And that's the puzzle. How the heck can there be a one self that's transcending even the greatest positives? So that's the logos element of understanding, but the structure of it is the dialectic. Therefore, we need to be able to say, hang on a second, what's the 4 elements of the dialectic? Here are the 4 uses of the dialectic. Is knowledge. The dialectic structure is the logos in knowledge. It's itself in relation to itself, or a pure definition. Do you experience the pure definition of the logos in knowledge? Is the logos through understanding? The functioning of that, remember, whole in relation to the parts providentially, unlimited in relation to people with limits providentially, the functioning of that definition to others, the demonstration or functioning. So there's our second state of mind, and our third. Are believers, no logos here by the way, other from that? Are believers defined in a state of being or a experience of the soul division, creating division, war, conflict, murder in the world? Is there other from others? And the massive difference the big sloppy pile of differences, like a pile of trash. You can have a broken watch which has all in pieces, but there is something unifying them in that they're all pieces of a watch that could come together. But trash is just differences. There's nothing in the trash that's the same. You could have anything in the trash. Throw a dead raccoon in there. Why not? It's still trash. Trash way of thinking, because you are other from self. And of course, left with the question that we said, the big mystery that we are putting our mind to most primarily, the question of Zeus. The one self version of the Logos. What's that? If this is the Logos experienced itself in relation to itself, or pure ousia, what the heck is this? That's the cause and conditions for it. So we've understood those 5 states of being within the structure of the dialectic, within the parts, within the structure of the dialectic, but also analogy. Because our task is, especially in this book, not just to understand problems, but if this is the art we're here to master, if our purpose therefore is to so if this is the gift from Hermes, love and logos, therefore our purpose is Zeus, is to master the art of it. Master this art, the art of all arts, because art is used to benefit. That's Zeus, by the way. So the highest of the 12 principles. Here is our model. There's a being, a power, and an activity. Zeus is our state of being. The power is Poseidon. The activity is Hephaestus. So when we look at how it was defined in the book, the state of being we're seeking is to be the source of all that exists. So even beyond knowing. That's the mystery. That so far can only be described in negatives. So far. To be guided by the divine wisdom, that's knowledge and understanding 2 and 3, through which we can take care of all things. How do we take care of people? The dialectic. remove problems in midwifery, reach the truth in philosophy, guidance in both in dream analysis, and sharing it so they even know that they're a wizard, Harry.
You're a wizard.
You're a wizard, Harry. This is the hero's journey, or the purpose of all people. But that's the existence we're after. The power we make use of is Usia's power. We're making use of Usia by awakening to the Logos, understanding the Logos, understanding knowing, again, understanding the Logos but experienced. We're awakening the power of Poseidon, cause of Usia's power and rules over all motion and generation. And the activity we use from the state of Zeus, providential, pure self, making use of Poseidon, is Hephaestus, the blacksmith. The power of Usia that then proceeds into activity. Dialectic, baby. It's always dialectic, baby. Proceeds into activity and inspires all generation in the physical realm. Helps living and non-living beings grow and develop. But inspires the soul to know the self. Know thyself. That's our state of being, the power and activity, which is the metaphysical elements of the triads. There is an existence, power, and activity that protects everything, keeps everything together. There is an existence, power, and activity of power itself, the Vivek, the letters, Artemis, Hera, and Demeter, the lovely letters. And there's the existence, power, and activity of what we do here to master the art, fulfilling our purpose as human beings. Apollo in our reading, while focusing on Zeus the way we've been doing today. Inspired to do it is Aphrodite, and Hermes is the dialectic. The gift from Prometheus. So what? Well, if we had mastered this art, which means it's a practice as well, who are we going to do it with? Who are we going to practice the dialectic to know the truth with in philosophy? Who are we going to help remove their problems with in midwifery? Who are we going to help awaken a connection with the mind, their providential guide, with in dream analysis that helps with both? I've been to the pub, and there ain't no one wanting to do this at the pub. Sharing it. We need to find a way of sharing this. And that's what we covered last time. And that's been the theme of the book, actually. The difficulty for religious believers is they have to start accepting that, or believing that their tradition of their fathers is true. So we've done a lot of work by saying, yeah, by the way, all of these things about sin and belief, that's all from Paul, who murdered people for fun, Christians for fun, and wanted to start a church and claimed that he was apostle, not appointed by Jesus, but by God, putting him above Jesus. And he denied all Jesus' teachings. If you want to talk about what Jesus said before his problem kicked in, look at the first half of Mark. If you want to see that Jesus talked about not belief, that's Paul and John, who backed Paul up, Paul's bad homie, bad noodle. Look at the Gnostic Gospels. Again, talking about, so in Mark and in the Gnostic Gospels, Jesus is talking about understanding parables as necessary, understanding, analogy. It's the logo. Even the first couple of lines in John talk about the logos and the self. His problem kicked in really quick, but you can still see it there because it's universal. Everyone has a certain level of understanding of the logos and vision of knowledge and self, and a certain level of problems, beliefs that kick in. And that's the story of Jesus and Mark as well. But if you look at the Gnostic Gospels, again, understanding. And in the Gnostic Gospels and in Mark, kingdom of heaven is a state of mind. Kingdom of God is beyond that. So we have understanding, mind, and self. In Christianity, if you were to do it properly, purely. So you can start by saying, well, I believe in Jesus. And you can find a way to the Logos. You have to do a bit of work, but get to work. Be a better, you've seen bad Christians. Trump and the like. Genociders and the like. Crusades and the like. Subjugating women and the like. Lying about the Adam and Eve story and the like. Be a good Christian. By awakening your purpose, the Logos and dialectic. So they've got a little bit of work to do. What are we doing? We're helping people understand their mythology. That's sharing it. We also saw, so that's this. They have to, we can start off with a clean slate, but the animosity of religious groups spawns countless wars and acts of violence directed even at each other. But as a whole, these religions can unite against those who reject their message. The core belief of sacrifice that they share, sacrificing what's good and what they love, betrays their own fundamental weakness. You're supposed to sacrifice bad shit, you idiots. Come on. Come on. Come on. I mean, come on. I mean...
Talking about a bunch of slop?
You're talking about a bunch of slop. I mean...
I can't walk and chew gum at the same time.
You can't walk and chew gum at the same time if you do this. So, by the way, yeah, you're a Pauline John follower, not a Jesus follower. If you believe in belief. And all of the other elements of Jesus being the only person and he actually flew up to heaven and demons and stuff exist, that's all Paul and John, not Jesus. Which has an influence from the Zoroastrians, of course. Paul influenced by the Zoroastrians. Good versus evil, not belief versus understanding or ignorance versus Logos. Closed systems, no development can occur. We talked about that being stagnant. Whereas the future is open to Hellenic. Okay, and if you take it literally, then you are blocked. And you are barbarian. The inability to grasp the meaning behind images would clearly mark those who can only function on a literal and concrete level of mind. Whereas a keen nurturing of the tales of the gods or mythology is the way of using the mind, to know the mind, as participating in the works of mind. Mind minding mind. That's Usia. That's the Logos. That's how we awaken it. Through mythology. Why? Well, even though Emperor Justinian began the Dark Ages by murdering the philosophers, we can allegorize myths to find a new way of reasoning that challenges the mind to find the forces in nature and among mankind that's summarized into images and forms that is consistent with and representative of those higher forces or principles that govern everything for always. If you don't do that, if you don't have a mythology, or you take the mythology literally, you are a barbarian or strangers to the gods. Barbaric is without a mythology that represents these metaphysical principles that the best people are discovering on their own inherently. People who love to understand, people who want to care for everyone, the best people out there. Whether they know it or not, they are awakening principles. Help everyone, healthcare for everyone, food for everyone, not just the billionaires. Get to participate in a house, everyone, not just CEOs who own all the houses. Freedom for everyone, not just the billionaires who can abuse and murder children. Principles, universally applicable. These principles will always apply. Yes, fascists and sexists and billionaires will have to find new ways of justifying their ignorance and harm with every new discovery. Oh, black people aren't less than white people? Oh, well, let's just change it. It's not Christian. Before we said Jesus said it was okay to have slaves. But now it's because they don't work hard enough. Yes, they're lazy. They're not hardworking like me, the CEO who has everything and inherited everything. Never worked a day in my life. On the golf course every day. Never went hungry. Lobster for lunch every day. Yes, I work hard. It's these lazy people. That's why we get to exploit and murder them. Yes. And take away housing. Disgusting. But it's always the same. It's always a projection, finding a way to stuff in harmful beliefs into whatever development of understanding is present, or whatever teaching or thinking is present. Interpretation. It's always the same. Nothing different. I sneezed. Always the same. Whereas good people, people who learn about medicine, people who care about other human beings, are awakening principles. A house is good for everyone. Makes sense, right? Doesn't everyone need a house? Doesn't everyone need food? Doesn't everyone get messed up in their head when they are afraid of not having food or not being able to afford rent? Doesn't it fuck up everyone? Yes, it does. No doy.
Talking about a bunch of slop.
You're talking about a bunch of slop if you don't see it's a principle for everyone. Because really,
The more holes, the better.
the more holes, the better. The more we can come together and greater holes, the better. So, the nailing down of those principles that we need for understanding and benefit or providence, that's metaphysics. The memorization of them and the sharing of them, help others learn it too, that's mythology. Why is that important? The more we do that, we look in everything we do, every art we do, even if we're doing, even if we're doing mathematics, astronomy, biology, agriculture, or any art, look for those metaphysical principles. And as you look for them, recognize them and give them a little figure. You can use the ones that we've got on the board, the 12 Olympian gods. You can make Spider-Man and Wonder Woman, and if you want, maybe there's an anime or a video game you're into and there's 12 main characters, use them. That's mythology. Without that, you are a stranger to the principles and a stranger to the gods. We want to be a friend of the gods and as immortal as man can be. So why is that important? Well, we want to bring men out of our barbarian existence in a brutal and short life into the flowering of excellence. We need a transformation, and Greek mythology offers a way to gain insight into the problems, because our mythology is the collective dream of people. So the more we do this, the more we become familiar with analogy, principles, dialectical structure, logos terms. We're awakening the dialectic, we're awakening understanding, and we're awakening a connection with how to understand our dreams. So these are the principles, the forces and principles of nature and mankind. It will fall on deaf ears to those stuck in belief, or to make a myth, the language of Hellenic myths fall on deaf ears in the land of Judea. That's the issue. Otherwise, I would have all of the Twitch subscribers and followers and all of the views and algorithm support on YouTube, because everyone would love this book and love to be talking about this and love to reflect in the chat on what they've been seeing in the book. It would be a fantastic, joyous sea of fun and whimsy and amazement. Or in other words,
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder, dude?
Full of childlike wonder, dude. But the difficulty is it falls on deaf ears because we are currently at a stage of evolution in a period of human history where we're at that turning point. We either wake up to this game, the dialectic, philodianoia, love and logos, or we take a back seat as pathetic mass of differences and allow our species and all life to go extinct on this planet. Because we have the technology to play out our false beliefs, and especially religious beliefs. By the way, seeking Armageddon so that Jesus comes back, that's a core principle of the Abrahamic religions. Jesus or God or whatever. It's a death cult. But all pathologos beliefs are marked by conflict as well. So we can play out our pathologos and cultural pathologos to the extinction of all life currently, meaning it's our, again, moral and ethical duty to master the dialectic. Okay. Assigning gods to these hierarchical principles is mythology. Why is this important? Well, even though at the start of the Dark Ages they tried to kill everyone, the founders of Belief Hall's church, fuckers, man, Jesus Christ. Yeah, Jesus Christ. A dream takes an analogical form that contains an anagogic function. So there's our analogy. Dreams. An anagogic function means upward moving, our anagogic triad, to raise souls of man to the divine, ultimately Zeus. And by playing with mythology, we awaken an intuitive understanding of how to work with metaphors and dream analysis. So why is all this mythology stuff being talked about? Well, because yeah. Jesus, hang on a second. Didn't we kill all the philosophers? Isn't it dead? Isn't it in the past? Well, if similar conditions arise, we can expect similar effects. To set in place myths that are so transparent that they can communicate principles in nature and of the mind is remarkable. Personification, relationships between each of the principles, a hierarchy, that's understanding, and personifying it is mythology. Therefore, if we want to bring to birth a new age, a way of being that can solve man's problems and turn us around from the extinction of all life on our planet, we need to create the conditions for that way of being. That seems to be mythology. And last time we talked about different ways of participating in mythology. So, the gift from Prometheus to mankind is the dialectic or Hermes, which is we master through love and logos, or philodianoia. Aphrodite is love of wholes coming together. The more holes, the better.
The more holes, the better.
Hey, that's Aphrodite, and we have to match it with the logos. That's Apollo. That's our reading. Therefore, our purpose is to master this art of dialectic. Applied to the true. Oh. The dialectic is applied to our highest excellence. That's philosophy. Applied to removing problems. This is necessary to start the game because you start blocked from Usia and Logos, but you can use your shallow Usia that keeps your problems alive, your shallow Logos that keeps you in your NPC zombie script. That you can make use of that in midwifery to remove your problems and awaken this higher functioning. Dream analysis is our guide. That's also the dialectic to unpack its messages. As we said, analogies of principles. through the dialectical structure. But you have to share it. How are you going to do dream analysis if you've got no one to do it with? Because
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
we're all looking for someone to share in an adventure.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
So we have to share it. And we just saw that's creating the conditions for the blossoming and awakening of this new mind. So what is mythology? Oh, by the way, this is the fun of the dialectic. We saw that the development through these 5 states of mind can be represented with the dialectic. Massive difference, other than self, belief, other, understanding, self to others, and knowledge, self to self. Definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion. Wrong color. Dialectic. But hey, we play it here? Is this also where we find the dialectic itself by studying philosophy, while we use it in the best possible way through midwifery? We can apply it every single day to all of our problems, every single night in dream analysis. Can we share it with others? That they can also turn around and get into it through mythology? See? Dialectic, baby.
Wow.
So what are the different expressions of mythology? Can we use that principle and play it out too? Let's start with self to self. Is there an expression, a way where we get mythology itself? Where do we get pure mythology itself? Reading this book? Reading the texts? Mythologically? Can we see the characters in this book, Jesus as Socrates, as mythologically representing principles that are fundamental, the movement from belief to understanding, the purpose for all human beings? Self to self, definition. Self to others. What would that be? Well, another idea of personification of mythology we said is dream analysis. Yeah, that's mythology. But maybe we can use this here as a guide. Is there a way? Oh, we came across a part in the book saying, see it in the book. Personification, personification. Personification. Here we go. Page 112. The willingness to yourself live most fully and completely one's vision of truth, capital T, is to take on the personification of the ideal. The test of that vision is to be willing to be what that vision embodies yourself. for acting out that vision in the most difficult of circumstances is a fire sacrifice for verifying the degree of truth of that vision. The test forces those who are against that vision to reveal themselves. Those who act this drama out or portray it for others to see force all others to see what otherwise would remain in the shadows. So as you trigger the haters, the haterade drinkers, and the copium smokers, that's also important. Don't take it personally. You're actually doing a good job. They might never have expressed their issue that they're carrying had you not triggered them by acting out a personification of these metaphysical ideals, or yourself being a walking mythology. So don't take it personally in your encounters with people. You're actually doing a good job. Ever notice that the Nazis are back in full force? In other words, we fought wars against the Nazis, but we didn't defeat Nazism because we didn't do the dialectic on it to find its root belief cause. So now they're back. And anyone who tries to do anything good, the fascists and Nazis and MAGA Trumpers and Zionists will come back in and go, oh, boo, 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 let's cancel you, whatever. That's important. They need to be seen and addressed. It's not personal. It's the playing out of the collective mythology. So, ourselves personifying it. Can you yourself, as an expression of mythology, in your life, be or act out or function as demonstration a personification of metaphysical ideals. And view all others like the people triggered by your excellence, or the Nancy Pelosi's and Chuck Schumer's and Donald Trump's of the world, as all personifications, as the collective mythology or personifications of those metaphysical principles. So you learn about it, self to self definition. You can function with it, self to others, in your own life, in your own live, in your own life. Whoops. Is there an others to others? Well, I can take a little bit of a clue from here. Dream analysis. Now maybe you could say, well, actually, the highest function of mythology is in dream analysis. As we learn about it and we read the texts mythologically, we gain an affinity to dream analysis, and that's what has been highlighted. So while we have this section here of ourselves being a personification of the ideal, the task of understanding dreams, an intuitive understanding of how to work with metaphors so you can understand dreams. This understanding of dreams is the bridge to the most sacred way of understanding. People seek meaning in dreams, and their way of being is enhanced. Then you awaken a common spirit. We also had that line that the mystical is not hidden from anyone because we all have dreams, and dreams allow you to learn about it and experience it. So dreams might be the highest functioning. It's really emphasized a lot. If you don't have a mythology or you take it literally, you are barbarian. Also, everything you do. So arts, mathematics, astronomy, and biology. So maybe we could say, well, acting it out in your life yourself as a principle, as a personification of your highest vision and ideals that are eternally true metaphysically, seeing others as a collective mythology, but also we could say in everything we do, mathematics, astronomy, biology, in all arts and activities, use mythology and look for those metaphysical principles. So we've got in our own life, viewing others in all our arts and creations. So this seems like division more. This seems more like division, or others to others, because there are lots of different divisions. Whereas it seems like the highest functioning self to others would be dream analysis. We get the definition of mythology, the vision in our lives, seeing others and their reactions. Don't take it personally. Keep your cool. Don't take it personally. They're not responding to you. They can't respond to you. They are responding to beliefs and images that cause their projections and problems, being triggered by the ideals and excellences. If there was no one aiming for excellence, there would be no one for the haters to hate on. If there's no one shooting for excellence and these principles of the logos, the pathologos, which is antithetical and in its opposition to and is in conflict against the logos, wouldn't surface. We would still have an artsy problem. So that seems like divisions, whereas self to others, or the highest demonstration of mythology, is not for others to others, but the highest functioning you can do is for yourself primarily. The highest functioning or demonstration, dream analysis. Unpack dreams mythologically. Finally, while you are a beacon of this principle of mythology in your life, others to others, you can also help others get into the self, or others get into philosophy, or others get into learning about the dialectic through creating your own mythologies. Use Spider-Man, or use the gods, or use the Bleach cinematic universe, whatever you're into. Use your own analogies. So, we have, oops. The gift from Prometheus to mankind is the dialectic Hermes, which we learn through Philodainoia, love and logos, Aphrodite and Apollo, which is expressed in 4 different ways. What's true in philosophy, use a dialectic to find the truth. You use the dialectic to remove what's false in midwifery. You do use the dialectic in your dream analysis, which helps you in both, and you share it in mythology. And that final category, or sharing it in mythology, is expressed in the text we've seen so far in 4 different ways. You read the text mythologically. Does Jesus and Socrates represent something? Do the Hellenes and the children of Abraham, or the lands of Judea, do they represent metaphysical principles? That is true for Abrahamic religions and the lands of Judea, but are also eternally true in any time, in any period, on any galaxy. Therefore, you read the text mythologically, and that gives you an affinity to dream work. So the highest functioning of mythology is to unpack your dreams mythologically, but then you can use both together, others to others, division. So see how your definition rolls over into your functioning in your dreams, which rolls over into your way of being, or division. So in your life, function as yourself, a personification of these metaphysical ideals, of your highest vision and understanding of truth. View others as not personal, it's just metaphysical concepts or principles, because people aren't even in charge. That's the pathologos. They're a slave to their images and beliefs, but also they're necessarily following the principles of reality. You can't escape physics and fly because you want to, or because you believe you can. You're still following the metaphysical principles. So if you can see that people are not responding to you personally, A, because they can't see you because they're in belief and projecting their images, and B, they don't have a will, because religious people have to sacrifice their will to be a member of, to follow the will of God, of Abraham. But also the pathologos takes away the will to give you an image and a role within the family clan tribe. So not only do they not see you, not only are they not playing out their will, they're also playing out, or necessarily following, the principles of reality, the laws of the universe. So can you see all others as a collective mythology or personification of these metaphysical principles? And also in every activity that you do, whatever it is you're interested in, whatever you do with your day, as you do it, can you use mythology in what you do and look for the metaphysical principles in what you do? That's the divisions in your life. And as a result of doing that, you can gain a mastery of mythology to help others affected by you turn back to the principle, to turn back, to get into philosophy themselves, for the others to return back to the start and begin this way of being themselves, awaken the new age.
I'm looking for someone to share in.
Because we're looking for others to share in this adventure. Can you create your own mythology? Can you write a book like this? Or make an anime that kicks ass? Become a writer on the next Naruto season. So that's what we've seen in the text last time, or the last few episodes. Because these 4 dialectical expressions of mythology benefits you and others, which is necessary because it's the fourth category. Sharing of the dialectic is through mythology, and that happens in these four ways we've seen in the text. So everyone can realize, it's not about belief. We can rationally, logically, or not logic, rationally is better, through the logos and dialectic, understand that there are these 5 stages of cognition that we all move through. 2 cause problems, 3 are excellence of the self, and we can represent them universally for everyone. No need to kill someone over this. Whoever you kill isn't going to change. You can kill people and remove believers for a while, but again, they will, these are principles of reality. People will spring up, different versions of the same metaphysical states of being. You don't have to kill anyone. It's just true for everyone, beneficially true. So we are understanding, and using that understanding to understand the principles of human development, cognitive development, spiritual development, and our evolution and purpose here on this planet, which can itself be massive difference, belief, understanding, knowledge, and self, represented with that same structure of understanding, which is the significance of understanding itself. Ever notice that the coolest, bestest, most wonderful and beautiful people love understanding and have a good heart as well? Then those are the people we say, hey, doing some fantastic work. Now understanding. So you can solve the problems that you are seeing and want to solve. Add logos to your love. So that's mythology. Lots of fun. I hope you had fun. I had fun reviewing the book where we're at and putting the pieces together. That's using our mind to solve puzzles. That's what the mind is. Solving puzzles. Now, we've also reawaken or seen several times today. The highest puzzle is, what the heck is the one? The logos that causes the logos in time and out of time with understanding knowledge, but somehow contains this inherent intelligibility in a different kind of a way. That using all the language and experience we've been developing can only describe it in negative. How does that work? Or, similar over here. What's the category of the dialectic? That's the conditions for the dialectic. How do we know it? What's the experience of that logos? That level of self. We experience the self and logos through understanding ourselves, through experiencing ourselves as mind. How do we, what's that cognitive faculty of knowing the self? How is the logos in it? Could people have that experience without going through this development of philodianoia, the dialectic, and not recognize the self in that experience? Not recognize the logos? How is the logos and self connected? How do we know it? What would that category be? These are our puzzle. How can there be a one beyond the greatest one? So that's the puzzle that we continue to reflect on, because that's Zeus as well. Apparently Zeus can utilize divine wisdom to benefit others while being the source of all. How is this the source of the dialectic, the source of the logos, the source of cognitive development, the source of... So look at the map we did last time. How is the one or the good self the source of being, which is the source of the soul, the creator of the soul? This is eternal. This is always in motion. This is... That's the puzzle. That's the big puzzle. So, got a juicy morsel of mystery to wonder about with our mind. And fantastic. I had a lot of fun reflecting on mythology and understanding how mythology is the dialectic represented, but we can also use the dialectic to understand the kinds of mythology and how we can play it out in everything we do, how we read the text for most of our waking day, hopefully, how we understand our dreams, which is the other half of our day, and everything else that we do in our interaction with other bods, ourselves being a personification, representing others, seeing others as a personification, and in all activities we do, math, whatever, cooking, music, and then finally make books like this too. So, mythology as a way of sharing the dialectic, which is our task, because the book said, you have set a great task of understanding dreams. You see the task of the Greeks to bring others to this way of being and reasoning, to move us from a barbarian existence into a flowering of the culture of excellence. Truly, says Jesus, this is a formidable task you sent out for yourselves. The task of mythology. So, hopefully we've understood mythology a little bit better, distinguished it from barbarians who take myths literally or don't have a mythology. Let's not be barbarians. Let's be people in a culture of excellence. Lots of fun today. I hope you had fun too. Thank you for joining me. Once again, follow on Twitch or on YouTube. Join the Discord. Link to the text below. Buy me a coffee if you like. There's a link below. And I'll see you in... Hey, be a lovely walking myth. Enjoy yourself as a walking myth today, which is a walking dialectic. Have fun. And I'll see you in the next... What kind? Oh, one? What's that one? How can it be the one? How do we know it? How does it represent the logos? Whatever that one is, I'll see you in the next one of it. Bye.